Okay. So yeah, welcome again to our second part of the certification stream, which is how certification enables trust in data spaces. And this session is dedicated especially to IDS ready topic. And yeah, we will start with the agenda. Yes, exactly. So we will start now with a short overview on what is IDS ready. This will be presented by Nadja Menz from the Fraunhofer Focus Institute. Yes, thank you. And then we will proceed with some examples of the IDS ready topic. For example, Gerd Brost from the Fraunhofer ISAC Institute will present the trusted connector. Then Sebastian, the metadata broker. We will see a presentation from Bernd Fondermann from German Edge Cloud on the ONCITE. And then Filip-Martin Brinkmann will present IDS ready applications and also some components. And Sven Löffler from Deutsche Telekom will then end with an overview about the Data Intelligence Hub. And I would now welcome Nadja Menz on the stage to start her presentation on the IDS ready assessment.
Hello, Natalia. Can you hear me?
Hi, Nadja. Yes, very well.
Wonderful. Then let me share my screen. You should now see my presentation. Yes, wonderful.
Right, perfect.
Yes, all right. Then, yeah, thanks again, Natalia, for the introduction to today's second session on certification, specifically on IDS Ready, and hello to everyone here in our group. In the previous session, you heard a lot about how to prepare for certification and specifically the ongoing work on IDS testbeds, with the common goal being, as previously presented by Natalia, to bring certification to life within this year. During the second part, my colleagues and I will not only outline what else you, as a developer of an IDS component or as a core participant in the IDSA, can do right now to get a head start into certification, but also present to you a number of components that have already been successfully assessed as IDS ready. But before we get started with IDS Ready, I want to give you a brief reminder of our mutual goal, IDS certification, which I know Sebastian and Natalia have already presented in more detail earlier today. So again, this will only be a very brief overview of the more important things to sort of outline where IDS Ready comes into play, with IDS certification, again, being our main target. While the majority of you here today will find yourselves in the position of the applicant, which you can see at the bottom right of this picture here, either for your product like a connector or a broker, or also as a participant, for example, as an app store or broker provider, there are two more roles that play a very integral part in the IDS certification, namely the evaluation facilities and the certification body. The latter will be the entity that is responsible not only for the approval of the evaluation facilities, but also for supervising all evaluations and the issuing of the certificates. At this point in time, the plan is that the IDS support office will act as the IDS certification body again, and Natalia has already also explained that there will be a tender being published very soon in summer for exactly this role. The third central role is that of the evaluation facilities. They will conduct the evaluation of a specific operational environment or a component, namely yours, according to the agreed IDS criteria and standards. Currently, the IDSA is, as you have already heard, in the process of approving the companies listed here at the bottom of the slide, as evaluation facilities, namely at this very moment, SIG, SQS, Fraunhofer Focus, and PwC. The first three for the assessment of components and PwC for the assessment of operational environments. Now, after this short outlook into where we are headed, let's focus on our main topic for our session today, IDS Ready. The main idea behind IDS Ready is that companies can have their documentation pre-assessed and approved while certification is still being finalized in the next couple of months. And for this, companies can contact certain members of the working group certification, a full overview of which I will show you in just a few minutes. And in order to get their documentation assessed as a first step, very first important step towards the future certification. What also should be mentioned is that, of course, a smooth transition to IDS certification is obviously planned in 2021, so that IDS ready companies will find themselves in a pole position to achieving this certification. At the moment, there are already 5 IDS ready connectors, most of which I'm happy to see will also be presenting here today after my introduction. Now, you may ask yourself what the actual difference between the two, so IDS certification and IDS ready actually is. So on the one hand, an IDS ready assessment is considerably more lightweight, as it is solely based on a discussion of concepts and the review of provided documentation. The testing of potentially already implemented functionalities or on-site reviews of processes are not part of this assessment. Also, the IDS ready assessment does not follow a standardized monitor process, i.e. The assessment does not provide an independent process and competence monitoring for the evaluators, which you have heard is definitely planned for the certification. Now, the head office is, of course, informed about the beginning of any IDS ready examination and obviously also issues an official IDS ready statement after successful completion. But again, there is no monitoring of the evaluators and verification of the results. Again, it has always been meant to be very lightweight and an initial step towards the future certification. Now, during certification, which is where we're all headed, the certification body will perform exactly those tasks that I mentioned in order to ensure comparability and a high quality standard that we all strive for in the IDS. And finally, and specifically for all those listeners that are actively considering IDS ready for their IDS component, here's a very brief overview of the necessary steps that you can expect. The IDS ready assessment of core components is designed as a workshop format between the developer of a component and the working group member commissioned with performing the assessment. The assessment will start with a 2-day workshop, either as a web session or on site, depending on the current situation. Where the developer gives a product presentation, and after a brief overview again of the IDS ready and IDS certification scheme by the working group member, an in-depth look together into the criteria catalog will be undertaken, complete with an initial assessment of criteria coverage and a joint decision for the target security level, i.e. basic, trust, or trust plus. So that sort of the roadmap is clear where the next few steps will be headed towards. Afterwards, the developer is tasked with writing an implementation concept for the component. So basically a document or numerous documents stating how this component will be implementing the certification criteria. So for example, identification and authentication, are there specific libraries that are used or that will be used? How is encryption dealt with? All these topics need to be formally written down on how they should be implemented. Again, no source code needs to be written. It is just a concept of the planned implementation. And then on that basis, the implementation concept will be discussed in detail in a one-day workshop, again, either as a web session or on site, with the focus being on still open questions, unfulfilled criteria up to this point, and the discussion of the necessary next steps towards becoming IDS certified. To finalize the process, an evaluation report on the IDS readiness of the component will be written for the IDSA head office, who then publicly announce the IDS ready label for the component, and in case of a successful assessment, will publicly state that. And I can already see Natalia, so I will finish real quick. Just again, here is the list of the currently available evaluators that you can contact if you're interested in IDS Ready. And of course, you can always get in touch with Natalia and Julia if you just want a more general discussion of where you could possibly go with your things that you're working on in the IDS. Yes, thank you very much. And enjoy the rest of this session.
Thanks to you, Nadja, and for this overview on the IDS Ready. So now I would like to invite Gerd Brost on the stage so that you can explain us the trusted connector and how is it connected to the IDS Ready.
Hi, everyone. So I'm sharing this very short slot together with Sebastian, so I'm going to get going. So let me see if the sharing works also in this mode. Okay, since I only have one screen here at my Corona home, please let me know if the time is over because I can't see anyone else. Thanks. So I have a few more slides than I should in the 5-minute slots because some of this is, I think, quite interesting reference, and I will rather keep this brief. But please keep in mind, if you want to go back to this to the slide set, there is a little bit more information than I currently am going to talk about. So what we're doing is, for a couple of years now, we have the Trusted Connector Stack. And since our institute totally is concerned with IT security, this is what we aim for. So we are aiming for the certification levels Trust and Trust Plus. We totally focus on the trust and security features. And our current roadmap aims for also getting cloud deployment with a high security level to live. So what we started with is the discussion. I mean, this whole certification, some of you might have the question, what is it for? There are a number of properties of secure devices that are really important and getting accepted in a whole range of applications and application domains. So I won't go into this because there is no time, but keep in mind, please, for a secure device, we have a number of properties we need to be covered. And this is also where the certification schemes head at in the IDS. So really want to have some level of security and trust that is also technically founded. I think the people who are a little bit longer in this domain already know this central architecture by heart. This is in conformance with the IDS reference architecture model, one of the central components being for us the IDSCP in our implementation, which is a flexible protocol to enable remote attestation and remote integrity verification between different IDS components. Where we came from with this IDS Ready label we currently have, we first started with a monolithic gateway, some kind of edge gateway and edge appliance, which is totally fine. But you have some implications, meaning the trusted computing base, which is here currently yellow, is a little bit larger than might be necessary or might be suitable for a very detailed certification. And also the trend to cloud environments is unbroken, so we need to take care of that. So if we look at the current software stack, I think a number of people also know about that, and we have some very cool projects where this is working as an enabler for everyone. We have this trusted core platform, and we root it on some kind of layers below on some trusted operating system. We started with TrustMe OS, which is able to be deployed on a monolithic solution. But if we aim for the future, well, we need something that also works in the cloud. And it not only should work in the cloud, but it should be trusted and be able to reach also the trust and trust plus level. We are now at the brink of a lot of many new technologies which really can help to foster trust and to also have strict isolation that makes it possible to also reach the trust level, trust plus level in cloud environments. There are a number of technologies here which are currently evolving. Some are already pretty ready, some are still in the research stage, but we are getting ready for this since we see a lot of customers now having the need to get this trust certification levels also in a cloud environment. So,
Gerd, 30 seconds left.
Okay, this is quick. So one of the spotlights I'm going to leave in here, the IDSCP is a very flexible protocol to enable trust and security over different application domains. And what we're trying to aim here together in the IDS is also to get these trust and high trust levels to cloud infrastructure. This is what we are working for. And wow, this is a tight schedule. So thank you very much. And I'm now going to head back to Natalia.
Thank you, Gerd, for this presentation. So, as a next guest, I would like to invite Sebastian Bader, who will explain us the metadata broker.
Great. Hello, everyone. Let me just share my screen. So that is the presentation, and here it goes. Okay, great. So I would like now to use 5 minutes to pitch about our plans regarding the metadata broker and the certification process here. Metadata broker, as I guess most of you know, is an important component in the infrastructure setting of an IDS ecosystem. And having that certified is, I guess, a quite huge step into the right direction. Same as just Gerd said, everyone who's a bit familiar with the IDS presentation slides, I'm 100% sure you've seen this slide before. I would just like to make the statement that for now, we do not have any of the other infrastructure components on a certification roadmap. So I'm very glad that we now with the metadata broker make a first step here and understand where we need to go and also understand how this process works out. That is, of course, not the easiest thing, as we are somehow here the early adopters, but we're very proud to have this chance and also work together with all of you, and especially with the IDSA head office in this direction. There's a series of projects which is around there. I will just jump over that. I guess you do not need to know all about the administrative processes here and would just be bored about it. What I would just like to put the spotlight a bit is that the setting you see here is deployed in several ecosystems. Most prominently, certainly, is the IDS lab hosted in Dortmund at our friends at Fraunhofer ISST. There are other ways to integrate with IDS metadata brokers. Some of you may have heard about the mobility demos we have out there, which are deployed at Dresden at Fraunhofer EV for the mobility domains. And we have also an open broker demo instance for testing and demonstration purposes here in our Fraunhofer Institute. So if you're interested in accessing that, just drop me a mail and I will give you access and point you to the endpoints. Okay, but we wanted to talk about certification today. And regarding the certification process, as stated, I think it's very important to have this trustworthy infrastructure here, even though the metadata broker is an optional component, in contrast to, for instance, the identity provider and the DUPs in there. Still, I think that only a certified metadata broker provides a trust level that nothing harmful happens to the search and discovery method inside an IDS ecosystem. And therefore, I think that also trustworthy, certified metadata broker is creating a big value here. So as Nadja already stated, there are a few different things how we could go for that. So we could go for an IDS ready label here on the component level. So that's, I think, the first important distinction. We would like to test and certify our source code and our reference implementation. It's not about getting the operating organization certified. Now, in contrast, what we just discussed and what we just briefly pitched before, here with a metadata broker, we would like to jump over the IDS ready state and directly go for the IDS certification. That means, of course, that the path is a bit longer, and honestly speaking, it's also significantly longer than we hoped at the beginning. But still, I think we're on a good track now. We have the environment settled, we have the evaluation body, we have specifications in place now and acknowledged and reviewed. So I think here we now have all the building blocks finally together to make this really happen. And with
Sebastian.
I only need 30 seconds. And speaking about that, this is the last thing I would like to mention. So we started around 2020, beginning of 2021, with finalizing the specifications of the metadata broker and the connectors in the second version. That is finished and publicly available. We are currently at the point of finalizing and publishing the testbed and the automated tests, where, of course, the metadata broker as an infrastructure component is an important component. And then we will continue now at the moment setting up everything to get the complete certification available and do that by end of this year. That will then come into the place of the open source, open core broker in the IDSA association, and it will also appear in the IDS operating company as a service which can be operated from there. Great, thank you. That was my pitch.
Thank you, Sebastian. We are very looking forward to this. Okay, as a next guest, we have Bernd Fondermann from the German Edge Cloud. And yeah, he will explain us the relation between ONCITE and IDS Ready.
Yeah, thank you for giving me a chance to participate in this great event. I will quickly try to show my slides. And then, so, I'm working for German Edge Cloud. I'm the product owner of the data spaces products, and our own IDS connector, the Trusted Supplier Connector, TSC, is our own software and is built as a part of this team. So you could ask, why is a small company like German Edge Cloud building its own connector? I will show you some of the reasons in the next few minutes. The first reason is that we are a small company, but we are very much focused on digitalization, on IoT. We built our own hardware devices, appliances, which are then present and brought to the edge, to the customer, to the shop floor. And we think that for edge and for cloud, data sovereignty, digital sovereignty is one of the cornerstones of our future business. We are also very active in GaiaX beside of the IDSA. So this makes perfectly sense to invest in this very important topic. But as German Edge Cloud, we are not alone. We are part of the Freetime Low group. And now you see this is a multitude of employees there. A number of companies with very different products, and many of them are data-driven. So it makes sense for us in this context to spearhead this effort of data spaces and also, of course, IDS connector technology. So that said, how do we see the placement of the connector? As I briefly touched upon, is that we are a cloud provider, so we have our own data center. We have different customers in these data centers, banks, industry, also the public sector. All these are sectors which are very, very eager to go into the direction of data sovereignty, digital sovereignty, and to employ also data spaces. Additionally, on the side, we also are present at the edge with our own infrastructure our customers use. And there is a lot of interaction between all these players with different sites, different kinds of cloud, fog, edge computing. So this is where the connector comes into play and will play a major role in the future. We are not only looking at IDSA. We also want to learn for GAIA-X, and we want to be ready to roll out this technology into the field. So we need to control some of the architectural settings of the features and the protocols, for example, we are supporting. So we want to reach a broad customer base, and this means for us, for example, to be multi-protocol ready. So this is the basic motivation, the business motivation to build our own IDS connector, to have it in our own hands, to build up also the competencies which are connected to data spaces which you need to have in your company and which we want to bring to our customers. And this, I think, already pays out. So if you then look at closer at our motivation and the value proposition, so we don't see, of course, the IDS connector not only as a technology, we also see it as a product. And this means this will go into the hands of our customers, of users, and they will be non-technical. So this is one of the motivations to make this really intuitively usable by non-technical users. Of course, on the other side, looking at IDSA, we need to comply with all the IDSA standards to be interoperable with all relevant IDS connectors in the field. This is why we participate in the association and in the activities there. But besides from, for example, being secure, like Gerd mentioned before, we also need to look into other aspects, like, for example, operations. The IDS connector we build needs to be easily operatable. And I show in a few seconds what I think this, for example, means. Then we need to integrate it into our edge product, into overall edge product or ONCITE, which is hardware we build together for the customer, really. We build the cases, we build the software, so we need full control over our stack. But the IDS connector, of course, will not only run on ONCITE, on our ONCITE edge appliance. It can also be deployed standalone. But running it on ONCITE is our major focus at the moment. Of course, from the beginning, really, of this effort, we had the goal to become Trust Plus certified, and this is then our starting point, really, for the strategical approach to GAIA-X, Catena-X, where we are a member of, and so on. So now I need to plug my power. So I can continue. So what does ease of configuration and operability mean, for example? So as some of you might know, every connector has an ID. And this ID needs to, for example, needs to be easily visible for the user. So this is one of the IDS configuration views we have for the user of our connector software. So there you can see that, for example, the self-description URL is prominently displayed and can easily be called and looked into the self-description. And also, one of the major focuses we want to operate this thing without downtime without taking it down and then changing configuration. So for example, the identity certificate can be redeployed while the connector is running. So these are a few examples how we want to ease the usage and operation of this software. The other aspect I mentioned was interoperability. Interoperability, for example, means to be able to communicate with dApps. So you have a list of dApp server which are supported. You can add to this list if you need a new one, for example, if you have an internal one. So you can really from one point interact with different connectors, different protocols, which I don't show in this presentation, with different dApp servers, with different infrastructure. And this is, I think, one of the crucial points to make this a successful product. Now coming to IDS readiness, which we went through, I think, end of 2019 to early mid-22. The benefits we have seen from this IDS readiness labeling and the workshops like Nadja described before, the benefits are that it prepares you beforehand for every aspect of the certification, really, right? It assures that you have a plan to go through the certification, really. It paves the way for that. And you have experts which you can consult on the design of your connector if you're building it for yourself. But be aware, this is not a one-off meeting or workshop. It's more like a project. There are multiple workshops. It took over 3 months to go through this. You need to have the time and the resources to do this. Of course, we first did a review of what we already had. And then we went really through every single IDS certification requirement. And so we were able to talk about this, what it means for the architecture, what it really, how do we need to understand that? I don't think without that we could have gone into a certification.
Bernd?
So it's not about the implementation. We delivered a concept paper. And this already had a direct impact on the product implementation backlog. So this is really something you can take and then build upon. Some of the learnings, certification is very, very broad. It is not just about your software, it's about IDS specifics, not just about IDS specifics. It really is a very broad thing, looks into architecture, also not of the connector itself, but of the underlying infrastructure. It will impact your implementation, for certainly. And I think it's the only way how you really can achieve certification. I think you need to go through IDS ready process. It will not work without it. Otherwise, you do it implicitly in the certification process. And of course, it then reaches the goal that you can trust others IDS connector certified components. So that's all I have. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Bernd, and especially thank you for your for sharing your experiences with the IDS Ready workshops and the learnings. These are very important things that we have to consider always. So now the next guest on the stage would be Filip-Martin Brinkmann from the SIG AG, and he will show us and introduce us to some applications and components that are already IDS ready. Hi, Filip-Martin.
Hi, thank you very much for the kind introduction. Let me quickly share my screen with you. And here we go. Okay, great. My name is, I'm a software architect at SIG. I don't want to bother introducing SIG to you. Andreas already spoke to you about SIG. And I would like to share our perspective on IDS Ready from the point of view of the application. What that means is the following. So generally, we at SIG, we are committed to actively contributing to IDS. And we do that in a number of ways. First of all, testing and certification. You probably heard and saw the presentation of Andreas Teuscher on that topic, but there are also other strains of action regarding IDS at SIG. So one is first and foremost, we are interested in developing IDS certified components. And one step on the way to a certification is the IDS ready label. So I will tell you a little bit about that. But also at SIG, we have internal startup initiatives, and I'm part of one of those startup initiatives titled Horizontal Supply Chain Collaboration. Doesn't go easily from the tongue, but I will talk to you about one of the applications we develop in that context. This collaboration is done with our partners and is settled within the community use case, which is part of the Silicon Economy project headed by Fraunhofer, IML, among others, but also with lots of industry partners. And let me show you the context of this application. So at the bottom, without going too much into details, what you should see here is this is a supply chain, traditional supply chain, where you have on the left a producer which produces in our project C parts, so very small parts like threads and screws, which in themselves have very little value but need to be delivered just in time to the end customer on the right. In the end, those parts will have to find their way into a Kanban shelf. And the steps in between are the traditional steps of shipping it and packing it. And the important part here is you see there are two red crosses, and those are the points in that supply chain where a repacking process takes place. And the thing with repacking is that you lose transparency. So there are tracking numbers. We all know those from parcels. They have tracking numbers attached. But as soon as you repack something onto pallets or into those Kanban containers, you lose that transparency. And what we do in our project is at SIG, we want to gap that that part where you don't see the process anymore, and we want to help produce the data and make the data visible. And one aspect is this repacking station. What some of you may not know, SIG is not only a leading manufacturer of sensors and sensor solutions, but also of systems and services. And this is an example for one of our systems. So this red cross you had in the middle where the C parts get packaged and repackaged and filled into the Kanban containers. This is a process we make now visible by reading labels, RFID tags, barcodes, and aggregating them to a new container, to a new aggregation. And this data we have there, we don't seek to be a mere producer of data. We have to take care of not only the process of identifying material, verifying material, assigning material to Kanban containers, and so on. So not only supporting the process, but also making that data available, not only to the organization which holds that station or that system in general, but make it available to all interested parties along the supply chain. And this is a typical case, in our opinion, for IDS. And this is why we should make that data available under the premise of data sovereignty via IDS and via means of IDS. And what we need for that, in order to achieve that, are, of course, IDS certified components in the end. And as I said before, we are a producer of components. So I want to point out here what our focus is as a company, as a component producer, which is interested in producing IDS certified components. So I want to take you a step back and look at the process I just showed you from a general perspective. The Overall architecture picture we all know is the following case for IDS. So we have two companies, company A and B, which exchange data via IDS. So this is the future. This is what we want to achieve. But if we take a look into those companies, we see that they in themselves are again fragmented into different contexts, which are not integrated yet, because that's Industry 4.0. In most companies, industry, you have at least two contexts. The one is, that's the one you see on top, the traditional IT. Nowadays, we call it edge cloud or data center or private cloud. On the bottom half, you have the traditional shop floor, the operational technology, OT. And that's where the systems are. That's, for example, where our repacking station is, but that's also where other systems are. And to enable those systems to deliver data via IDS to interested parties, we need to equip those. And those systems may not only be on the shop floor, but also, that's what you see in the left upper corner, the IT level here. And we need to integrate those into the big picture. And the focus of SIG is exactly on those levels. So we are interested not in the, I would say, cloud-based large connectors that interconnect organizations at large up here, but more in the component view of things. And we have one component, which is the SIM50FX. And as Bernd Fondermann said before, that was a project. I can just underline that, what he said earlier. We worked through the requirements together with our colleagues from Fraunhofer, and we reached the IDS ready label last December.
1 minute left, Filip-Martin.
Perfect, just in time. So the thing with that component was, when we tried to integrate it into our application, the application you saw before, is that it's situated on the wrong level. So what we're looking at in the project is exactly this connection. You remember the C parts manufacturer wants to deliver data to the next in chain. That's on the organizational level. But this component we made IDS ready is situated on the shop floor, on the operational level. And this brings us to the next steps. So one is, application-wise, we will develop further applications via the Startup Initiative Horizontal Supply Chain Collaboration, along the example of the repacking station. On the conceptual level, we want to bridge that gap and discuss this internal versus lightweight connectors on the different levels. And on the device level, take the learnings from the SIM50FX and go in the direction of producing a component which is a connector, which hosts a connector, which is either IT level or shop floor internal level IDS certified. And that is it from my side.
Thank you, Filip-Martin. That was really great. We are a little bit late with the schedule, but I really want to welcome Sven Löffler from the Deutsche Telekom now on the stage. And if you would like to buy us some time so that we have time, so that we have a little bit time to network, this would be also very great. But welcome, Sven.
Yeah, welcome, Natalia. A warm welcome from my side as well. I hope you can hear me, and please let me share my screen, and then you should see it in a minute. So my name is Sven Löffler. I'm responsible and leading all the activities inside Deutsche Telekom for the data economy activities inside Deutsche Telekom, and it's a pleasure to present quick to use the Telecom Data Intelligence Hub, an IDS ready certified product. We are part of the journey, IDS journey, since 2017, and we launched this product in 2018 in September. And of course, we attended all of these certification architecture workshops and really enjoyed and learned a lot during the last years. What is it all about? That is a practical example, right, based on the IDS components that we introduced to the market, as I said, 2018. Telecom stands for trust and security, and secure, we are dealing with data, closed data, commercial data, open data, and the intelligence part is really enabling our clients, customers, to work with data and exchange data, but also to gain insights, to turn value, to turn data into valuable information, and differentiate with specific business cases. That's not all about data exchange, but it's all about analytical capabilities on top of this data that you would exchange. And it's not a lake, it's a hub. That means we are not persisting and storing data. The idea is really to enable and share it. So the overall vision is really to close the data silos and the gaps between the different companies, the different departments, to really bring this data together. And the idea is really to establish a kind of data ecosystem where we are helping clients, companies, to enable them to securely exchange data, and then enable them to develop data-driven products and services to differentiate based on these innovations and new business models. And with the full, and that is this other important pillar, with the full control of the data usage, we call it data sovereignty. That means be successful from a European perspective. We are engaged in a couple of activities, an aspect in Gaia X, but also from in the IDS activities for these both initiatives are crucial for us, that we have a digital sovereignty in Europe. For that reason, it is important that the data owner, provider, keeps control over the data that was shared via this ecosystem. That is the idea. Said that, let me quick share how it can look like with you. I think a practical example is even better than so many slides. You should share my screen right now. And this is the landing page, the start page of the Data Intelligence Hub. Here you will see what I just explained: extract very valuable data, gain insights based on the data sovereignty aspects, the IDS act. The idea is really here, we are bringing data sets, commercial providers, data sets together and enabling our clients to download securely the connector to, and as Bernd from German Edge Cloud presented, I think one learning is really that it should be as easy as possible to participate. It is important that you minimize the complexity and reduce the complexity. For that reason, you can download your connector easily. You can deploy it into your preferred cloud on-prem environment and enable and ramp up your connector on-prem so that you can then connect your data sets and publish your metadata sets to the broker, to the DIH. So that means we implemented a couple of components based on the standards, connector, broker, as I said, and so on and so forth. The idea is to reduce the complexity to really enable the data sharing in such an ecosystem. And in a marketplace, as you see it here, you would then be able to search for data sets. Of course, yeah, that is one important thing. My screen here, we have different data sets and categories available. Let me maybe search our partners that we onboarded already on the DIH, as I said, commercial data providers, but also open source that are coming from the European portal, governance portal here, that we are harvesting data sets, metadata sets, but also data sets from commercial providers, like here. Let me give you an example. These are geo data sets, Berlin data sample sets. We agreed with here that on a test license, we are visualizing these data sets here and describing a little bit what you can do with these data sets, example data, so that you get an interest. And when you are interested in this data sets, you can subscribe to this offer is free and you can use it unlimited, right? And then you would work, that is what I meant with enable our customers to work really with these data sets. So the idea is really here, check out these data sets easily. Here you see a few examples, what I did in the past. Organize teams, external companies, internal companies, employees, data analysts, data scientists, initiate projects and work with tools to manipulate the data sets that you exchanged in this marketplace and such as ecosystem. So the idea is really easy search for data sets, work with data sets, and the third section is control your data offers, your data sets, and also have the freedom to create your own data offers. I will show it quick so that you have the options to go to a step-by-step approach. And that would be the simple way how you would configure your connector. You will download your connector, specify where you would like to ramp it up, it be registered, automatically registered in our marketplace so that you can work easily on such a marketplace. Yeah. So the idea is really that we are enabling our clients. As I said, we are based on ramp this marketplace up on a Microsoft Azure environment, of course, in an environment where you have a couple of certifications that is only an excerpt of all these certifications. So that means at the end you can ramp this up in any cloud, and also the connectors can be ramped in any cloud, in any instance, on-prem or cloud environment. And based on the underlying IDS certifications and the trust and the security certifications that we are doing as Deutsche Telekom with our private security assessment, we are guaranteeing that these interactions between the participants is trustful and trusted based on our partners and technology that we brought together. Technology is a good comment, or maybe a good thing. Let me share quick the browser again. When I jump.
1 minute left, Sven.
Yes, when I'm jumped back maybe to the field here, that is maybe also important. This is an activity that is backed by partners. Yeah, so we are selected best-in-class partners, technology partners, and as well data partners to really bring all these components. As I said, commercial data providers like here, AccuWeather, but also technology partners to really manipulate and work with your data sets. That is a little bit the idea. In summary, as I said, we are a strong partner. I can really highly recommend to participate on all these architecture certification workshops that Nadja mentioned. These are crucial and mandatory from our point of view to really learn and adapt your components and products before you're bringing these components to the market. And this is, of course, on the IDS reference architecture, and of course, what will come more and more closely together based on the Gaia X cloud reference guidelines and components that we will see in the future. So that means at the end, these both components are giving us in Europe the trust, secured environments for our databases, and we can all really highly recommend to participate in these initiatives. And I'm looking forward to work with you. Questions, please, to me or to our team. I will post in a minute the details in the chat window. Thanks for the chance to present the idea and the real example. Thank you very much.